I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, June 12th zoning meeting. We would like to start with a silent invocation and pledge of allegiance. I could do that. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we will go on to the approval of minutes, minutes for May 8th, 2018 zoning minutes. I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, motion passes. We will go to item 4, public hearing. 5A, which is the Planning and Development Services, SPR 2018-0001, the East Route 66 Sector Development Plan.
Good afternoon, Chairman Quesada, members of the Commission. I'm very excited to present this agenda item to you. It's the East Route 6. How do you switch this over? It's the East Route 66 Sector Development Plan. It's a project that the Planning and Development Services Department has been working on for quite a while in conjunction with the neighborhood residents, the local officials, and others interested parties. And we're excited today to be able to present the final document to the County Commission for consideration. The plan area is within the East Mountains. Here's overhead of the county. And the plan area is in the this is a little closer up. This is the East Mountain area plan area, and then the red area is the plan area. It's about a 2-mile corridor along historic Route 66 from the East Cedillo Hill Road exit, or the east end of Cedillo Hill Road, to the county line. More specifically, the properties involved here are highlighted in yellow, and I will go ahead and just leave that up for a minute. So the item before you now is agenda item number 5. It's case number SPR 2018-0001. It is a request for Bernalillo County Planning and Development Services for approval and adoption of the East Route 66 Sector Development Plan. As I mentioned, the plan area is located in the East Mountain Area Plan's Character Area C, which is characterized by mixed uses, open space, some residential uses, but primarily a lot of special use permits have been approved over the last several years for neighborhood commercial and light industrial uses. The sector plan was precipitated by those ongoing requests for special use permits, and the trend indicated to Bernalillo County officials and staff that the predominant residential zoning, which was A2, might no longer be appropriate in that particular area, and that we should consider a special sector plan as provided in section 20.5 of the county zoning code. The sector planning process involved a lot of property owners, business owners, area residents, elected officials, and county staff, and culminated in the plan before you this afternoon. As required by the zoning code section for sector development plans, this sector plan does contain all the required components: land use regulations, permissive and conditional uses, height regulations, lighting, design standards, and so forth. And if adopted, this plan will be a rank 3 plan as defined by the county's plan ranking ordinance. The sector plan area is currently partially developed with a mix of uses, primarily special use permits, and the intent of the sector plan is to increase economic development opportunities in this particular area by creating an optional zoning category. This area is part of historic Route 66, and there is a lot of tourism associated with Route 66. And in this particular area, there are some existing businesses that do serve as a tourist destination. The proposed optional zoning is an elective zone, which would allow neighborhood commercial type land uses, such as banks, coffee shops, pharmacies, and so forth, and a few light industrial land uses. The sector plan will also has a provision to continue to allow special use permits under very specific circumstances, as long as they help to maintain the rural character of the area, which was seen as one of the primary assets, according to neighborhood residents and business owners. In addition, to the regulation component, the plan provides background context, provides a foundation for the rest of the plan. It discusses other county planning documents that are used in the preparation of this plan, and it builds on the work of the East Mountain Area Plan and other applicable Rank 2 plans. And it also addresses some transportation items to help with the flow of transportation, bicycling, trails, and so forth. The East Route 66 Sector Development Plan is consistent with the zoning code requirements because the planning process was followed, and it does contain the items required. And on April 2nd, the County Planning Commission recommended adoption of the plan based on 2 conditions, the details of which have since been incorporated into the copy of the plan that you've had for review, and therefore those conditions are no longer needed. However, since the Planning Commission hearing, staff received a request to clarify plans for equestrian facilities within the sector plan area, and in response to that request, the county's East Mountain Trails and Bikeways Master Plan does identify location of existing and planned trails in the East Mountains for a variety of types of uses, equestrians, pedestrian, bicycles, and so forth. It identifies appropriate locations for those types of trails and equestrian trails. However, within the East Route 66 Sector Development Plan area, and in accordance with the East Mountain Trails and Bikeways Master Plan, where feasible, the New Mexico Department of Transportation has constructed and does maintain a hard surface multi-use trail within the plan area. It's within the New Mexico 333 right-of-way. And also in section 3.3 of the sector plan, it discusses information about the East Mountain Trails and Bikeways Master Plan, and in order to clarify the type of trail information in this document, that's where I would propose that we add a little bit of language about the provision for equestrian trails, and I have crafted a condition for you to consider. And in conclusion, based on the Planning Commission's recommendation of approval, minus the 2 already incorporated conditions and the proposed recommended modification to section 3.3, staff encourages the County Commission to approve and adopt this plan. And I thank you for your attention, and I will stand for any questions that you might have. And I do have copies of the proposed condition if you're interested. It simply will add a bit of information to the end of section 3.3 that discusses trails, and it will include a little blurb about soft surface equestrian trails. And with that, I'll stand for questions if you have any. And we do have members of the community here that have been integral in the planning process, and they're here if you have any questions or would like to hear from them as well.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'm going to need an AR number, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chair, that's AR 2018-42.
42, thank you. Do we have any questions? Yeah, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as everyone here knows, I mean, this takes not just a great effort on the part of the staff, but requires a lot of effort from constituents in the area that have put in a lot of hours. And I do know that several of them are here today, and they would like to come up if they had just a couple of minutes to explain their involvement. Linda Barber is here. Joel, others, if they could have just a couple of minutes to explain their participation in this project, I'd appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a list for public hearing on this item, and they are also listed on that.
They're all on the list? Okay, so we'll just go to, I guess it's not really appeals, but it's just,
It's a public hearing.
it's a public hearing part of the appeals, okay. So do you want to just read off the list? Okay, we'll get that. Give us 1 second, she's on the phone.
I gotta go. First is Joelle Hurdle, sorry, Linda Barber, Elizabeth Martin, Roderick.
Okay, oops, I'm sorry.
Roderick Del Guerra. Okay, and Jake Kreider.
Okay, I'm Joelle Hurdle, 19 Ann Court, Harris, New Mexico, and I'm a member of the Bernalillo County Planning Commission and also a neighbor in the area of the sector plan. And I just wanted to voice my support for the plan. It's an important gateway document recognizing the importance of the entry into the city. I attended the public meetings. There's a great deal of neighborhood support and input into this document, and as Mr. Smith said, a lot of work has gone into this document. Again, want to support the document, hope that you approve it, and note that it was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm Linda Barber. I live at 22 Ann Court. I've been heavily involved in this process. The sector plan initially started almost 10 years ago, and then we had to stop it and have taken it back up again. So this has been a very important document to the community. I'm also on the board of directors for Intranosa Water and Wastewater, and having a good sector plan such as this in place is invaluable for our long-range planning on where we're going to lay lines, where we're going to move our water. So it's a very important. I urge that you adopt this plan and that we can, hopefully in the very near future, resources will be available for us to move the plan westward and incorporate another section. So thank you very much. I do hope you will adopt this plan.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Betty Martin, and I'm the current president of the Cedillo Road Greater Neighborhood Association, and I also have been very involved with working on the plan, and the neighborhood is very supportive, and I think we all feel it would be a very good thing for the area, and I hope that you'll consider adopting the plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Jack Kreider. I'm the new CEO at Intranosa Water. Intranosa does support the plan. I think, though, what I want to speak a little bit about is I'm fairly new to New Mexico, only about 6 months, recently from Oregon and California, and what I think I was most impressed with was the process and the staff. After many years of frustration in California, watching this process, watching the public support, and watching the staff was really impressive. So it is a good plan. Hats off to the county, and thank you very much. I appreciate support on this plan.
Thank you.
That concludes public hearing.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all so much for taking the time to come to this meeting this afternoon. Any more comments? No? Okay, then we will do a vote, right?
Chairman Quesada, I would like to just read into the record the proposed condition verbatim.
Okay.
So if you choose to adopt it, you'll have it in the record.
Okay.
So the proposed condition reads, the last sentence of section 3.3 shall be amended to read, the plan also contains several examples of multi-use roadway cross-sections suitable for rural roadways, including soft surface equestrian trails. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So I motion to approve Administrative Resolution AR 2018-42, adopting the Route 66 Sector Development Plan.
I'll second.
And I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. So now we're going to appeals. Planning and Development Services, CO 218-001, CSU 217-0031, appeal.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Casada, Commissioners. Following item, my name is Robert Pearson with Bernalillo County Planning and Development Services. I'm a program planner with the county. The next item for you is COA 2018-001/CSU 2017-0031. Patrick Diaguero, agent for Mario R. Dominguez, appeals the decision of the County Planning Commission to recommend denial of a special use permit for a contractor's yard and a single-family dwelling on Tract B, lands of Ron Douglas, located at 5785 Nisi Road Southwest, zoned A1 and containing approximately 2 acres. Original request was submitted by Garcia Kramer Agents Associates, agent for Mario Dominguez. This application was deferred at the February 13th, 2013 hearing and was deferred for a second time at the April 10th, 2018 hearing. At the November 1st, 2017 public hearing, the County Planning Commission voted 6-0 to deny the request. The property owner and his agent have appealed the decision. The applicant the application is to allow the storage of semi-trucks on the property, and the original site plan showed parking for 16 vehicles and a dwelling unit. An attempt was made at CPC to submit an alternate site plan, and the CPC considered the agent's statement that the number of vehicles would reduce to 3 and still concluded that the use is not appropriate for the area. The applicant's agent also argued the CPC that there are already a large number of trucks in the area and that the area, as there are nearby mining operations and contractors' yards in the area. The CPC still found the use as inappropriate and recommended denial to the BCC. The applicant has hired a new agent who appealed the CPC recommendation. The applicant was originally requesting remand to the CPC for reconsideration of the goal of approval of the request. The applicant is now requesting that BCC consider and approve the request. In their appeal, the applicant and his new agents also feel that there is new evidence that should be considered by the BCC as outlined in their revised letter. The information relates to the proximity of proposed uses similar to the existing use, and a new site plan presented at the CPC that further reduced the number of vehicles proposed to 3. New agent argues that the property owner needs to testify at the hearing. No new site plan or justification has been provided since the CPC hearing. However, the agent has provided new photos of the area surrounding the subject site and the photos of the subject site. Those are contained within the appeal packet. While the applicant and his agent have argued that as to new evidence and reasons for approval, most of the changes they are proposing were presented at the most of the information they are presenting was presented at the CPC hearing in November. The application was once again denied 6-0. The staff does recommend denial of this appeal. I stand for any questions.
Have any questions? No?
Chairman?
So I do. So this, after a couple of appeals, the CPC still stands by their decision is what, basically what I got?
Chairman Casada, members of the commission, the requested initially a remand, but after discussing the evidence that they were arguing wasn't presented, it was very similar, and they have reached a conclusion that they would prefer, instead of a remand, to have you consider the issue and make a decision on it, rather than, because the evidence is not substantial enough in staff's opinion to warrant a remand.
Yeah. So I will read this. So this is the appeals. This is an appeal based on evidence in the record. Ordinarily, no evidence will be accepted before the county commissioner. However, County Commission, however, in the event that new evidence or testimony is accepted, the clerk will swear any witnesses who may testify concerning it. The order of presentation and time limits as set forth in the rules of procedure are the following: staff presentation, 5 minutes; appellant presentation, 10 minutes; opponent presentation, 15 minutes; appellant summation or rebuttal, 5 minutes; staff closure, 2 minutes; board discussion and question, and then action. Please be aware that the time limits for each appellant and opponent is the total time allowed regardless of the number of persons signed up to speak. So each side will need to decide how to divide the total minutes among the speakers. Before each quasi-judicial hearing, the following statement shall be read by the chair. A, this is a quasi-judicial proceeding. The commission is to act as judges of this particular facts concerning the parties before it, applying existing law to the facts. The commission is to base its decision only on the facts presented it to by the parties and not on any facts supposed by it that may exist outside of these proceedings. The commission is to act with impartiality toward each party, applying the law to the facts without favoritism or bias, or the mere desirability of a given result. A commissioner with a financial or family interest in the outcome of a quasi-judicial proceeding shall disclose any potential conflict in accordance with the rules and should, if necessary, recuse himself or herself from the proceedings. The commission is rendering its decisions should make a clear statement of what it believes to be relevant facts and why those facts led it to this decision. Each commissioner shall avoid ex parte communication with parties bringing cases before the commission. However, such communications that occur may be cured by procedures stated in Rule Number 4. We will begin, so we just had the staff presentation. We will now go on to the appellant presentation.
Chairman Casada, Commissioners, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Rod DeGarro, and I represent Mr. Mario Dominguez. Mr. Dominguez lives or has a sizable piece of property located at or near 5800 Nisi Road Southwest. Nisi and Douglas Road is the major intersection. It's located on the west side, on the southwest quadrant of the city. It's approximately 1 mile west of Coors Boulevard, more or less. So it's midway almost between the top of the hill and Coors Boulevard. The area basically is structured as our consists of a lot of vacant properties. We have done an evaluation of the properties in the area. I would say that the majority of the properties surrounding my client's property on there are either SU or they're not in compliance at all. Let me do a basic description of the layout of the property, and if I can get this video to work here. We're able to pull up a map here, and I hope it's helpful. I think we can get kind of a basic layout. And so my client's property is generally where this, where my finger lay. And sorry about this here. I'm usually in court, and I usually have this thing on silent. And how it happened this time is because I was preparing for this. I'm sorry. So where my finger lay on here is basically where my client's property lay. On this particular corner, although you don't see it here, you want me to get closer to you? Where you see it, where my finger is right now, that corner is actually owned by a neighbor. And he has a construction yard there. And you'll see that in the photographs that I'm going to refer to shortly, okay? Right across the street to the immediate north of the neighbor's property and my client's property is a house. Behind that house is a construction yard, okay? And then if you go catty corner over here, as you see, as you travel with my finger up to that red roof area on there, that neighbor has some commercial vehicles, some food service vehicles, and I understand that he's got some other commercial storage. I am informed that that's not in compliance either. To the immediate east is just vacant property. To the immediate south is a sand and gravel extraction process going on near land, all right? And that happens all the way past Powers Way to the south. So if you go a little bit further, I think this is Powers Way here, yeah. Is that Powers Way? Yes. So if you go down Powers Way, over on this side, it's all sand and gravel extraction. And then if you go past Ronald's Trail, all that is extraction. And then there's extraction, I believe, on this side over here. There are radio towers a little bit further as you go down Nisi to the north. There's an area where there's radio towers and a lot of vacant property. There is trash strewn out throughout the entire area. On my client's operation, he has tried to address some of the concerns and issues of the zoning planning inspectors. He has added some asphalt millings to his property. He has added fencing, and he does raise some. He does care for some racehorses in the area, and he has a couple of employees located there. So what we're asking for is the approval of a home, of the construction of a house, and the approval of a contractor's yard. It's interesting to note, and that was pointed out to me by Stephanie Nieto Chavez, is that his property is the only property that's actually in compliance with an agricultural zone designation. It's the only property around there. He's the only one. Nobody else does what he does. He's got horses there. He's got employees there. And what he's asking for is just the storage of three truck trailers. Now, those trailers are empty because his operations are actually in the southeastern part of the state. He brings them up, he drives home, and he spends the night at his residence across town. It's a matter of convenience for him. More than that, his intention is to build a residence there in the near future at some future date. He likes the area. It would make sense to him to actually have a house there, to live there, to be there with his property and his horses. And it makes a lot of sense on here. It is economically feasible, and he would contribute to the economic development of the area. Quite frankly, he's got the best, if not one of the best, properties in the area in terms of visual aesthetics. For whatever reason, the presentation in front of the EPC had its shortcomings. One of them was on there, and at the original presentation on there, the mapping indicated that there was an intention to put up to 15 or 17 trucks there. That's not the intention here at all. What he wants to do there is just to put 2 or 3 trucks there, no more. And they would be empty. It does not create a burden on the streets. We've checked with the road department on that. And in terms of the fencing in this area on there, the trucks and the trailers would be barely visible from the street. And given that there's nothing else around there, it just makes sense to us that it should be approved. Why wasn't it approved at the EPC level? My client was not allowed to testify at that point, and that wasn't It was just the way the presentation was done. And he's here. He'd like to say a couple words. Let me just go through a couple photographs in this area, if I may. And I won't go through all of them. These I've already submitted to you. If you go to Exhibit 1. Yeah. What you see here is Exhibit 1. And Exhibit 1 is looking from Douglas onto Nisi Road, which is the corner of that parcel. That corner is owned by his neighbor. His neighbor has a construction yard. And my client sits behind that, okay? Here's the house that's across the street to the north, and behind that house to the north is a contractor's yard. Understand that, okay? It's a contractor's yard, and it's got everything you'd expect in a contractor's yard: junk, construction materials, etc. Okay. This next one on there just gives an indication in the area of Pajarito and Douglas Road. Pajarito runs from Coors all the way up to Douglas Road, and you can see it's pretty rural out there. Okay. Likewise, is Exhibit 3. It's the same, pretty much the same indications there. This one looks east. You can see the mountains to the east. You can see Douglas Road between Nisi and Pajarito looking to the west. I mean, it's pretty barren out there. There's just a lot of weeds and junk. And there's a lot of sand and gravel activity out there. This particular one on Exhibit 5 is looking from Nisi on the corner of Douglas and Nisi. And
No, it's across the street.
okay, this is the property across the street. Yes, all right. What you'll, oh, that's right. This is the property across the street. You will notice on there that through this property, you can see a commercial vehicle. And they sell, I guess it's a food service commercial vehicle. All right, that's a zoning violation. This next photograph, Exhibit 6, shows my client's property, and you can see one of his horses. And I have to tell you, am I running out of time here?
Yeah,
Okay,
you've had your 10 minutes. Okay, thank you. Opponent?
Chairman Casada, there's no opponent. This is an appeal of the CPC decision.
Okay. So you can, the appellant can do another 5 minutes if you wanted the owner to speak. This would be a good time for him to.
I think so, Your Honor. Sir, thank you for that opportunity.
Hi, my name is Mario Dominguez. I own a trucking company and also train some race horses. I think the first thing what this was denied, it's the lack of communication with the person who is helping me before. He put there that I parked 17 trucks, or I not even know, never in my life that kind of trucks. I don't know where he get that. That's the first thing. After that, I noticed denial because I get a letter to my home, but he never called me back. He never answered to say this happened, and then I like to be here. And at that time, I also like to be there to explain, or to see if everything is going good. And he said, well, you don't have to be there. And okay, so he advised me not to go. Why? I don't know. So that's the first thing that I think this was denied, because he don't know what we're doing and what we like to do. One of the things is how my trucks get through the property. On Pajarito Road, there's hundreds of trucks to the landfill every day. On Douglas Road, there's no houses. The first thing you see on your right, well, there's just a road for a while, and when you get almost to my property on the right-hand side, the first thing you see, there's some contractor's yard, and I tuck in huge contractor's yard. On the left, there's a mechanic shop, and then when I'm on my property, I can hear the machines, and I tried to record a video, but on video is different. If you, it's kind of hard to hear what I hear there. So you can hear the machines running all day. Like on the back of my property, there's a couple of tandems, the small trucks running behind my property all day, every single day. They extract gravel from near my property on the north side to the south side. I think there's from Coyotes and gravel. So they run out of material, so they need to get it from a different place. So all day there's trucks around. Next door, they doing stockpiles of millings. Like, my trucks are not all the time at my place. So when I take my trucks to my place, they're empty all the time, and it makes a lot of difference for the roads. The trucks, they're there all days, every day. They're loaded, taking material in and out. And we took a picture of one of the trucks unloading material. That's not a coincidence that the trucks was there, because they're there all the time. So what we like to do, I don't think it's gonna change anything at all. I don't think we're gonna damage anything of the roads or bother the neighbors, because it's mostly what it is. Like let's say we are the least, the quiet ones, the ones that don't do the noise and don't do less of construction of like everybody around it. Let me see. And I think it's all I need to say.
Okay, thank you. Staff closure?
Can I get the overhead? Chairman Casada, Commissioners, this photo is in the staff report, and as you can see, there's 4 trailers there, and this is the subject property. This was actually located on the property to the south that he also owns. But as you can see, he owns at least 5 trailers that have been there in various different times. There was a long process of enforcement against this property before the special use permit was finally applied for. Next item is these contractors' yards that he pointed out, proximity to the property are violations, and zoning enforcement is working on those. They are not currently approved under special use permit by the county commission. And this area, although there is heavy traffic on Pajarito and there are mining operations, and those were considered by the County Planning Commission and the Bernalillo County Commission as to their effect on the area, and were analyzed by Public Works at county. And so the closest mining operation to them actually goes through other properties to get to their crushing plant. So those trips are not actually happening on that road. Other vehicles may be using it, but once again, the property to the south of them that is, they were pointing out as being a sand and gravel operation, is not operating legally, if that is indeed what they're doing. There was some debris noted there. I don't know if they're actually crushing and reusing and stockpiling, or what they're doing on that particular site, but zoning is enforcing on several properties in the area. And the property is zoned A1, and it allows for agricultural uses and residences as primary activities. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Any questions? So you're telling me that everybody around this property is not in compliance, that they're, or do they have special use permits?
Chairman Casala, they are not in compliance. We have, as you're aware, an inspector strictly dedicated to working with issues on the Pajarito Mesa. This is actually closer to Coors and is actually handled by the zoning enforcement department, but there is a lot of challenges in the southwest area out on the mesa and going up onto the mesa, and this is one of those properties. Our department spends a lot of time working towards enforcement and compliance in this particular area.
it's just really hard to base a decision on what other people are not doing. I just don't know if it's a, you know, I mean, if it's a strong case for me to, I have to say, I appreciate that, you know, that the appellant has the courage to come forward and to try to get something done within our procedures and trying to get into compliance with the land. This is up on Pajarito Mesa, I believe, which we have a lot of issues with. I guess I could just put it that way. We have a lot of issues with the Pajarito Mesa. And I appreciate him coming in and saying that, you know, he would rather have it done correctly and go through the processes, and I appreciate that. You know, I'm not here to judge on what these other people are doing. I'm hoping that the county will go out and make sure that they are also in compliance, and if they're not, and if they can have a valid argument to, you know, be doing the type of businesses that they're doing, that they would also come to us for a special use permit. So I have to, you know, appreciate the fact that he's doing that. I just don't know. At this point, I'm still kind of torn in between, you know, what really is the right thing to do. I mean, maybe this is a place for me to make a stance saying, you know, that if you come to us, that we're going to be a little more open to making sure that you're, you know, at least in compliance with what the zoning is asking you to do. But it's really hard for me to base it on, you know, because everybody else is not, you know, is not doing it. Maybe maybe I don't know. So does anybody else have any other concerns about? Yeah, Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Were there conditions ever placed, or was this just an outright denial?
Chairman Casale, Commissioner O'Malley, this was an outright denial. Findings and conditions are included in the memo to the BCC. I can read them into the record if you would like.
Could you explain what it's, okay.
The basic conditions are, we would limit it to 2 vehicles. They would need to do a grading and drainage plan. They would need to comply with the natural resources requirements for stormwater runoff and not storing flammables, hazardous materials outside. They would only transport empty vehicles to and from the site. They would need to provide a traffic scoping report to the Bernalillo County Public Works Department within 60 days. And they would also need to provide the grading and drainage plan and the well water sampling and other things that are required by natural resources within 60 days. Let's see. They would be required to comply with Bernalillo County landscaping and parking regulations and any other county regulations and ordinances related to the development of the property. Lighting would be site-specific. No outdoor speakers or amplified sound. We're recommending a issuance of 2 years. And then they'd have to provide 3 copies of the revised site development plan to the zoning administrator for review and approval.
So these conditions, were they acceptable to the applicant?
Chairman Casale, Commissioner O'Malley, yes.
Are there pretty extensive conditions, it seems like?
Commissioner O'Malley, one concern they did express is they would like 120 days rather than 60 days to comply with those, as the operator is out of town frequently.
Okay. Thank you. That was quiet.
Any more comments? All right. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you for your time.
So we'll that's all our discussion. We have no more discussion. I guess we can take an action on this. So I guess the action would be to allow a special use permit for a contractor's yard and single-family dwelling. the denial. So we would be voting to uphold the denial, right? So all in favor of upholding the denial signify by saying aye.
So Commissioner, would you like me to, Mr. Chairman, state the motion? So I move that we deny the appeal and uphold the decision of the CPC.
So that's the motion. All right. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. So that's a 2-2, so that fails, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you voted.
Well, I could also have a motion. I was listening to the conditions that were imposed, and they seemed, well, more than reasonable in terms of what was required. Limited in vehicles, landscaping, all these things. And I think that was the issue, how many cars they had, the visibility, fencing, those kinds of things. And I also think, as you mentioned, that this is a very difficult area to deal with in terms of zoning, et cetera. And you have someone who came before us and asked for a special use permit and wants to do things legally in the right way. So I think that's a plus. There's still a lot of empty property out there, I think that given the conditions that it would make sense, I think, to grant them that special use with the conditions that were read. And so I would move that we do that. So that we would
So you want to
grant the so what would be the grant the appeal with the conditions as listed.
Okay. All right. So we have another motion to grant. So we have a motion to grant the appeal based on the conditions set forth by the county, right? By the county. So everybody, all in favor of that signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
No. Mr. Chairman, I need a second on those.
Oh, did I get a second? Oh, yeah, we have a second from Commissioner Smith. Sorry. So, and thank you, everybody. And I understand everybody's concerns up here, and I understand Commissioner Stebbins' concerns. But I think that you know, O'Malley, Commissioner O'Malley, I think said it best that, you know, we need to start setting a precedent that if you do want to have and do things on that land, even though it's like the Wild West up in Padrito Mesa, that, you know, this will set a precedent. People will come and ask for those sorts of things instead of us having to go out and continue to enforce. But I also would like to have the county look at those other properties that were brought to our attention this evening and make sure that those residents up there are in compliance. And if not, they need to come and try to fix that. Thank you. Now that is our next zoning meeting will be Tuesday, August 14th, here at the Vincent E. Griego Chambers at 3 p.m. This meeting is now adjourned. It's just hard. It's just